All right. We're going to jump over to the quarterbacks right now. And Deshaun Watson is someone that has some concern around him and going into this game. What's kind of his outlook? Because after his first good game in the NFL with the Browns.
Yeah, so what you saw with Deshaun Watson is he sort of just shoved into a defender. It seemed like it's just general shoulder soreness, I assume, right? It could be an AC joint issue. It could be, a stability inside the joint issue. There's no real telling. There was a tweet that said Deshaun Watson took a few passes, threw a few passes, and then walked over to the athletic trainer. So he might be listed as, as a limited participant today. This is something to monitor through Sunday. Because when you have a guy who is having these types of issues through the week and you see that they're limited at practice, this could turn into a situation where if he plays, he's highly volatile because he could re-injure it if it's that bad. But if if he's a surprise inactive, then you're going to have to get him out of your lineup. So this is another great reason to be in the Patreon. I promise you, it's not just analytics and numbers and data. It's also just keeping up with the information and understanding, knowing what's going on with your players at a high level, staying ahead of the competition. Trying to snag waiver wire claims when all these things happen. So you're going to want to get in the Patreon. Again, I don't want to publicize it too much. Like, I think it's fun. We have a small group in there. The smaller group keeps it fun. But again, if you want to be competitive and serious, patreon.com/injury prone, stay tuned for more on Deshaun Watson. Because honestly, right now it is up in the air. It's a 50-50. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and that's a tough one. And that's a game where they're going up against the Baltimore Ravens, where it's just, two very good defenses that are going to be going up against each other. They're going to need everything they can out of Deshaun Watson. It's I think Deshaun Watson was drafted low enough that you might have a good backup, and I think you're going to consider that backup very much. Maybe you have Kirk Cousins, who's very much a play this week. There's even the possibility. Baker Mayfield. Well, it's a tough game for him this week. Maybe the player we're about to talk about in a second. So let's talk about him. Jimmy Garoppolo. He's got played through the game, and then was diagnosed with a concussion afterward. Again, this is something it's such an individual thing. Kind of prognosis from your end.
Yeah, so a very individual thing, sort of like you said. Every person, every human goes through the concussion protocol at a different rate. We do know that he was a DMP Wednesday, limited practice today and Thursday yesterday. So he's on a good track so far. He hasn't had a setback from our understanding. He hasn't cleared protocol, but he hasn't had a setback. I've mentioned this with Anthony Richardson's about 50% of quarterbacks who go into the concussion protocol since 2018 come out the other end the following week and play. There is an increased risk of re-concussion, right, of re-injury. So you don't need to use Jimmy Garoppolo by any means. But again, you could be in the position where you're like, shoot, I have Deshaun Watson and I have Jimmy Garoppolo. I never advocate for carrying two quarterbacks in the first place, but I understand some leagues, that ends up being the case. So this is really tricky. You could roll the dice. I want to say there's a 51% chance right now Jimmy Garoppolo goes, as long as he clears protocol by tomorrow. You can roll the dice and leave it that way, or you can go out and snag a third quarterback, which is not ideal. I understand. But for right now, you're going to have to really monitor the news. If I had to go with my gut, I would say Jimmy Garoppolo goes.
Yeah, and again, it's such a great game environment. Both defenses are beatable. Both offenses are going to go. Gosh, I love that game. I love that game. Games at SoFi Stadium do tend to shoot out. We're going to do one quick one. Derek Carr, who did not. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Derek Carr. Again, with the AC sprain, the average amount of missed time for an AC sprain is 17 days for a quarterback. So you can miss up to 2 weeks, right? We know based on what's going on with Derek Carr, he got taken to the hospital, scary situation. They cleared him for internal organ damage. Watch for him this weekend. If he is placed on the IR, if they're going to do it by tomorrow. I'm not saying that is likely to happen, but it is a possibility based on how severe the injury seems to be. At the very least, you're going to be without Derek Carr this week and potentially next week. So it's the Jameis show, baby. And the script writers, they did a great job, compadre, because they put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the New Orleans Saints on the exact week Jameis Winston. This is beautiful. The writer's strike is over, and you can tell.
Dámelo. We want more.